Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Urban Politics, and I am your humble host, Phys Ed Music. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. As soon as you have a chance, please go to YouTube, like and subscribe. Phys Ed Music, Urban Politics. But without further ado, I want to jump right into it like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty and delicious politics to sink our teeth into. Now, if you've been paying attention, listen, am I going to talk about Ukraine? Of course I am. That's the hot button topic. People over there dying. There's a war going on right now. No man is safe from. You know what I'm saying? That's Mob Deep. But before I get to that, let's talk about another political issue that I think is very important. We'll talk about a few things and then I'll get to Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I'm looking on my agenda here. I think I talk about Ukraine as the last thing I'm going to talk about of my 4 points. You know what I'm saying? So let's get to point number one. Point number one, Congress has a 40% favorability rating. So that means only 40% of Americans are digging Congress right now, think that they're doing a good job. Let's talk about one of the very big reasons for that. Clarence Thomas, who's a Supreme Court justice, one of the few people of color that sit on our Supreme Court right now, his wife, Ginny Thomas, is linked to organizers of the January 6th insurrection / riots. I call them the Trump riots in the news. You know, they call it the January 6th insurrection. I call it the Trump riots. He started it. It's his baby. He's got to own it. So she was instrumental in forming the Trump riots. A lot of people say that Clarence Thomas should be impeached. I agree. That's not a conflict of interest. Your wife is this super ultra conservative person who was instrumental in getting people riled up and together to storm the U.S. Capitol, right? A lot of this stuff he refuses to recuse himself from, even though his wife is a part of all these right-wing super PACs and stuff like that. She was involved, with Liberty Central, which is an anti-Obamacare PAC. You know, so she was involved in that. She was a staffer for the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is an extremely conservative outlet. Everybody knows that. So, you know, and Clarence Thomas, he is a conservative. He voted with Scalia 90-some% of the time. I think these days he still votes extremely conservative. So that is what it is, but it's still a conflict of interest that you have a wife who's involved in some of these organizations, giving money to these organizations, and you don't even care. And then here's the thing, too. Democrats should have something to say about that. You know, if this was going on say there was a Republican, you know what I'm saying, or, a justice who leaned towards the Republican side or whatever, and then, you know what I'm saying, or if there was one who was liberal and leaned, toward the liberal side, and his wife was involved in all these liberal causes and stuff like that, and he tended to vote for or against things that his wife was involved in, I guarantee you the right would be bringing that up. That'd be an issue in the Republican Party, and they'd be going at that guns blazing. But you don't see people doing it on the Democratic side. I don't know why. Somebody needs to definitely call him to account for this. You know, and if they're not going to impeach the man because it's a conflict of interest, your wife is involved in all these conservative causes and outlets. Ergo, when you go to vote, it's interesting how you always vote in her interest. Maybe not even in your interest or the constituents or the American people's interest. It's in your wife's interest. So that is what it is. But if you're going to do that, he need to be impeached. He don't need to be there, Or if he's not going to be impeached, you at least need to recuse yourself from some of these huge cases that involve a whole lot of conservative stuff that they're against. Some of these cases about abortion, he needs to recuse himself from that. Some of these cases about voting rights, Judge Thomas, you need to recuse yourself from that, okay? Because your views are biased. You're sleeping with the enemy. Or, your wife is involved in all these conservative movements and outlets, ergo, your opinion is biased. You know what I'm saying? And we don't need that out of our court justices. So there's that. So let that be one of the reasons why people are not at all happy with the Supreme Court. They talk about packing the court. Somebody said packing the court would be unpacking the court, because right now it's lopsided, right? We have 6 conservatives, 3 liberals. So that's not good. Anything that comes through that pipeline, you already know where it's going. It's going to the right. We have more judges who sit on the right, and that's a problem, and they're going to talk about how Joe Biden politicized the court by talking about how he was going to elect a black woman to that office, but that's not politicizing the court. That's just trying to get some type of evenness in the court. And like I said, it still won't be even, but at least getting a woman of color in the room will at least make sure that those conversations go a little bit different. Maybe they get a viewpoint that they would not have gotten. Maybe they'll definitely get a viewpoint that they would not have gotten were she not there. So that T.I. is what a T.I. is, but Mr. Thomas, he need to get his act together. That's real raggedy. You know what I'm saying? The fact that the Justice Department ain't hollered at you about that, the fact that they don't demand that you recuse yourself from some of these cases, that, you know what I'm saying that we know conservatives want to tank. You know, we know they're against abortion rights. We know they're against voting rights. And you don't have to recuse yourself from this case, from those cases. You know what I'm saying? That's garbage. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about something else, a hot button issue. What I'm going to talk about? The N-word. Y'all know the word I'm talking about. America's favorite word, right? Look, there was a situation that happened a while ago with some people at work, and I just heard about it. I was on the outside looking in. You know, somebody was telling me about it. Basically, what it was is, and I work at a school for kids, so one of the kids, he's been running around saying the N-word, right? And this one lady was working with him, and this woman is a Caucasian, and she was repeating a story about this young man to some co-workers. One of them happened to be a black woman. And, you know what I'm saying, she repeated verbatim what the young man said. He said the N-word. The one black lady who was in, was there to hear the story, she called offense and told her, you can't say that. And she said, well, hold up. You know, that kid says it. If he says it, why can't I say it? And she was like, well, he's black. You know, so that started a whole thing, and it's gotten kind of ugly between these ladies, I've heard, or whatever. Now, when I heard this story, all I said is, this right here is a side effect of us not dealing with race in this country, not dealing with cultural sensitivity in this country. And I'm not talking about some of those classes that they make you go to, talking about cultural sensitivity and political correctness, but I'm like, we just need to be real straight up and honest about this whole thing. Now, like, when I heard this story, I said, what I wish would have happened is that woman of color who was there at the conversation said, hey, hold up. Please don't use that word around me. I'm uncomfortable when you use that word around me. I am not comfortable hearing that word. I don't think that people should be using that word. So please don't do that when you're in my presence, you know? And then I wish that the white young one would have been like, oh, you know what? I apologize about that. I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I was just repeating the conversation like it happened. I didn't mean anything. Boom, they could have moved on. But see, we haven't dealt with race in this country, so we can't do that. We can't have those simple conversations like that. Now, here's the real about that. There's a time and a place for everything, right? And that was work. So was it appropriate for her to say that? No. And you could have told that story and you could have said the N-word. When you say the N-word, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. Nobody thinks you're talking about NyQuil or Nocturnal. Everybody knows the specific N-word that you're referring to. So whenever you are a person of color or even a person not of color and you're in the workplace or a professional setting, you'd want to say the N-word and not use the terminology, no matter what your skin color. Now, how about this? And some black people may disagree with me on this, but there's even times when it's inappropriate for us to use it, right? Let me give you another story. A friend of mine, and this guy, he watches the show. He's an avid watcher. One of my best friends on the planet, my dude Brad. My dude, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure he'll watch this episode. He had told me a story because he used to work at Bob Evans. And he had told me a story about how older brother got hired there. And, they were doing some kind of project. And there was a younger brother who was working there. And the younger brother just in just conversation had called him the N-word. Like, oh, what up, my N-word, da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, just did it very casually, the way black folk do. You know, and didn't think, about it at all. Obviously, the older brother took offense. He goes to the higher-ups. He gets the young brother fired. Now, see, that happens because, hey, there's a time and a place for everything. Was it professional for that young brother to use that terminology, even though he was using it towards another person of color? No, because not all people of color are comfortable with that word. Not all people of color use that word all the time. You know, believe it or not, there are some black people who hate that word and feel like no one should use it, right? But even some of these black people, I'm sure when they're alone with their families or with some of their other, people of color, they probably do use that word. Ain't no problem. Now I think about it, I'm like, I know some people who say that, and I know that when it's a private time, right place, they will use that word. But sometimes it's not even appropriate for people of color to use that word. Why? You're at a workplace. Okay? And how about this? Black folk, don't act stupid. When we move, the whole world moves at our back. Okay? That's a song Common Sense and Black Thought got out. But when I saw that song and I listened to those words, they are 100% correct. When we move, the whole world moves at our back. That is the reason why they're sweating people of color and black folk to get this vaccine. Because they know when we do it, everyone will follow. We set the trends. We make the music. We design the clothes. Pop culture is us. Okay? So with that responsibility means that we can't just be using that word flippantly. Because when I'm out here and I'm using that word with my brethren over here who might be a person of color, people who are not of color hear that. You know, and they see how that's going, and they want to be a part of that. You know, they want to be a part of that camaraderie. They want to be a part of that feeling of unity when we use that word amongst each other. So as black folk, we have to be cognizant of that and know, don't be doing that in public. Because when we're doing it towards each other, it kind of does tell other people they can do it, right? You know, if they doing it with each other, why can't I? You know, if Ed just called such and such the N-word, why can't I holler at Ed and say, hey, what up, my N-word? Now, we know this is real life. And you know what I'm saying? Please, you know what I'm saying? Be careful with that word. I would say anybody be careful with that word, because that word is steeped in a whole lot of history, negative, and believe it or not, positive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just is what it is. I remember when Madonna had called one of her adopted kids the N-word on Twitter. She said this N-word. Now, she obviously didn't mean that in a derogatory fashion. She called herself being cool. She called herself being hip. She caught a whole lot of backlash for that. A lot of people didn't like it. I wasn't upset because I don't know Madonna, but Lord knows I've been a fan of hers for a million years. I've seen the pictures with her and Big Daddy Kane and all that other stuff. I remember Like a Prayer when she made Jesus black in the video. I don't think Madonna is racist at all. I don't know the woman personally. I could be wrong. But from what I've seen from her breadth of work, I don't think that woman's racist at all. And when she did that, she called herself being cool. She called herself being hip. But at the end of the day, once again, that word is steeped in a lot of pain. And so you can't just be throwing it around like that. You know, rappers throw it around all the time. And that's what a lot of it comes from. You know, a lot of these people, they hear it in their favorite songs and stuff like that. So they're like, you know, why can't I use that word? And I ain't gonna lie. Hey, listen, white folk, when you in your car or you at your house, ain't nobody there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not expecting you to delete the N-word from your favorite rap song. Who does that? Strictly for my, you know what I'm saying? I die for my, yeah, you gonna say that. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna edit yourself at the house or in your bathroom. Does that make that person a racist? Or does that mean that that person likes that song and it sounds a lot better when they say all the words? You be the judge. Listen, years ago, my supervisor, I ain't gonna say her name, I don't know nobody, but she was telling a story about her daughter. Now, our supervisor, this particular supervisor I'm talking about, was a Caucasian woman, and she was telling a story about how her daughter was at school, and she said, yeah, Eddie, there's this new black girl in her class, and she's been enamored with this girl. She loves her to death, you know what I'm saying? All she can talk about is this little girl. She said, but then I go in her room, and I read this note that she had got from this little black girl. Hey, I got an N-word. Do you have an N-word? My N-word this, and I N-word that, and these N-words. Now, when she told the story, she wasn't saying N-word. She was saying the word. Did I take offense? No, because I know this woman. I know that she's not racist. She was telling me a story, and you know what I'm saying, and she was using the vernacular that she found in this letter, and it was troubling to her. She said, I don't know what to say about that. And I said, well, look, that little girl is using language that she hears every day. Every day she's hearing this word. I said that if you notice the way that she's using it, it's interchangeable. She asked her, did she have an N-word? That's like saying, do you have a man? I got a man. You know, do you have a boyfriend? I have a boyfriend. See, this little girl is hearing adult talk, you know, and she's, you know what I'm saying, and she's spitting that out in this letter to you. So that's all that is. You know, I said, but that's the talk of the hood. That's the talk of these kids. You know, so I was like, that ain't nothing to be troubled by. Just let your daughter know that, hey, some of this stuff, you know, don't you be necessarily using that word, but if she wants to, that is her. That's her and her culture and her background. That is her thing. You know what I'm saying? But make sure maybe you don't do that. I remember years ago, a white young lady had told me how she had like 4 white sons, because she had 4 white sons by white men, and then she had 5 black sons, you know, biracial sons by black men. And she told me, she said, the hardest thing in the world is for me to explain to my white son why his biracial brother can use that word and he can't. You know? And I told her, I said, that is a hard thing to explain. That's a hard conversation to have, but you must have it and you must explain it. So I'm glad that you're doing that. I say because you have to do that, because a lot of times that word can be the difference between life and death for both races, believe it or not, for black and white people. You know, so that it has to be talked about, and please, by all means, talk to your children about that. You know, how that's not a game, that's not a joke. You know, there's a lot of horrible history rooted in that word. A lot of black people have heard that word, and somebody was coming with guns and ropes to lynch them and kill them. You know, so that's just a serious. You know, it's just that serious. We gotta talk about a little thing about code switching, which is a real thing, and that's something that black people have to do all the time. Code switching is the practice of alternating between two or more languages. So basically, a lot of black people alternate between slang and work language. There's comedians who tell the joke all the time, yeah, that black guy Bob, you know, at work, he don't talk like that, he don't act like that, and that's how it is. A lot of people of color are different people at work. They have to be. They can't be the same person at work that they are at home, because that just is what it is. You know, I worked in a high school with kids who were severely emotionally disturbed, and that was one of the things we tried to drill into them. Like, look, you might talk like this in the hood, you may act like this in the hood, but when you go out here in polite society, this behavior will get you kicked out of a place. Okay, this behavior will have them telling you, we're gonna put you on a list and you don't need to come around here no more, because this behavior is not acceptable in polite society. It's okay in the hood, it's okay in your house, but it's not okay in polite society. So that's what code switching is about. Sometimes you gotta change it, you know, and black people, we do it all the time. We change the vernacular. Lord knows I do it. I'm not the same man at work that I am outside of work. But that goes for everybody, doesn't it? You know, I think this code switching thing just comes in because when you're black or a person of color, it's also going to have something to do with the way that you talk to people and relate to people, and maybe sometimes the things that you say. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've always gotten a lot of accolades on my authenticness. So I try to be authentic. The same way you see me here on Urban Politics is the same way I am on Spitfire Radio. That's a show that I do. The same way I am at work, the same way I am with my family. You know what I'm saying? I try and keep that level of authenticity. Not everybody can do that, and I'm not asking everybody to do that. And how about this? I got some friends who beat me all day. They're way more authentically themselves than I could ever be. I have some friends who are unapologetically themselves, and I admire that, because I can't do that. I admire anybody who can do that. But that's what code switching is about. Sometimes you have to switch it up. Now I'm going to say the word nigga, right? But nigga comes from Negus. Negus means Ethiopian king. It's actually pronounced Nugus. Nuhgoose. And that's what it was. You hear a lot of guys talking about it. That's where the term nigga even came from. Now, first of all, the Ethiopian king, the Negus, he was defeating a lot of white slave captors who were going into Ethiopia trying to take them and put them into slavery. He was one of the few African kings who was able to do it, right? So they wrote stories about him, and when they write stories about him and run those stories here in America, they would make him a white man in the stories, because they didn't want white people here to catch wind of the fact that there was this Ethiopian king, this Negus, you know what I'm saying, that was killing and sending all these white folk home empty-handed with no slaves. So that's where that came from. So, because a lot of them was coming back and saying, oh, we can't stand these niggas. Oh, these niggas is giving us crap. We're going over trying to get these Africans and make this money, and these niggas is stop niggas. And that turns into nigga. If you, there's a Kendrick Lamar song where it's like he's doing a concert, and then in the middle of the concert, he just breaks out, because I think there's like a fight or something going on, and you can hear him on the mic. He say, hey. He said, hold up, y'all got it wrong. It's not niggas, it's niggas. It's not Nigga, it's Negus. And he starts breaking it down. That's a really good song, you know, but right then, you know what I'm saying, he breaks it down right there, the difference, you know, so that's where that came from. So that is what it is too. When you think of that, you're like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? But at the same time, whether you say niggas or niggas, just the vernacular, you know what I'm saying, it's probably something, one, you shouldn't be saying in a professional setting, and two, you probably shouldn't be saying it if you're not of a certain hue. There's that. India.Arie, she took her music off of Spotify. Why? Joe Rogan. And it wasn't over the anti-vaxxing stuff. Oh, no, 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 no. It was because my man Joe Rogan is fond of using the N-word. And not the N-word. Not saying the N-word, the word, right? So they had all these different clips of him, just saying the word, saying it. Then he told a story. I may have even talked about this on the show. I got to talk about it again. Told a story about how he wanted to see Planet of the Apes. So they Googled movie theaters in the area where they were at. And they ended up going to a movie theater that was in a black neighborhood. He said, I walked in there and it was Planet of the Apes. That's extremely racist. A white guy said that he went to an all-black movie theater, walked in, saw a bunch of black folk, and first thing came to his mind was Planet of the Apes. That's extremely racist, right? But even when he tells this story, in telling it, he's like, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, that was extremely, I shouldn't have said that. That was extremely racist. So you know what, and even India Irie was asked this, do you think Joe Rogan's a racist? No. Guess what? A lot of people are culturally ignorant. They just are. They don't know. And I loved Fear Factor. I love The Man Show. I don't think that Joe Rogan is racist. I think he's just culturally ignorant. And if you're white, you can be culturally ignorant. You can get away with it because at the end of the day, what do you have to care about other cultures? I mean. You know what I'm saying? The world at large is set up for you. America at large is set up for you. Why do you have to care about the plight of those black folk or the Spanish folk or the Asian folk? And there are some white folk, praise God, they're thoughtful enough, they're human beings enough to care about the plights of these different folk, but they don't have to. So I can understand how a guy like Joe Rogan could grow up all his life and be very culturally insensitive, so I don't think that he's racist. I think he's ignorant, and it looks like he's trying to do better, so hats off to him for that. But is he a straight up racist? Is this guy gonna put a cross on your lawn and burn it? Nah, I don't think he's gonna do that. But what he said was definitely racist, and I like the fact that at least he owned up to it. All right, let me move on. Let's talk about the mayor of New York and how he came guns blazing at drill rap. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, he declared war on drill rap. Now, our drill rappers like Chief Keef, maybe you heard of that guy, maybe you haven't. He was big back in the day. He still does some stuff now. Chief Keef, he had a concert that he was supposed to do in Chicago, where he's from, back in the day, and Rahm Emanuel, who was the mayor at the time, stopped it. He told the venue to cancel it, and they canceled it because he said Chief Keef is a bad influence. And really, Chief Keef just comes out of all of this drill rap culture. You know what I'm saying? Chicago is rough. I've talked about Chicago here on this show. I love Chicago. How about this? I've never been to Chicago and had bad food in my life, and I've been to Chicago a number of times. The food's amazing. The people are amazing. The atmosphere is amazing. But it is gangland. They do have some gang problems in Chicago, right? So rapper Shy Watts was shot, ambush style, and T-Dot Wu was also shot and killed. So that was two of the things that really made Mayor Adams say, like, hold on. We didn't have two brothers get shot. Both of them was drill rappers, back to back like that. We got to talk about this thing. Something's going on. And I guess he didn't have that big a frame of reference with it, but he reached out to his son, and his son sent him some videos, and he was appalled at the videos. I hear that. Drill rap, and I get into that. I've talked about it on the show. You know what I'm saying? I like to get into whatever the young people in. If we want to understand the youth, if we want to understand our future, we got to get into their world. We got to know what they are consuming. You know what I'm saying? So drill rap, you know what I'm saying? When you see some of these videos with the guns everywhere, the drugs and all that other stuff, you can be turned off real quick, but you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit there and you listen. If you listen to the lyrics, they're giving you some good stuff there, but you got to listen. There's a rapper named 50 Foreign, and he urged Adams, he said, fight with us and not against us. I like that too. These young brothers, these drill rappers got brains in their heads. And they came to the mayor and they let him know, hey, it ain't our lyrics. It's the streets. We're giving you the word from the streets. And rap and hip hop has always been like that. It's always been the news of the streets. It's always been the tale of the downtrodden. It's always been the struggle of the hood, right? So that's what this guy letting them know. Like, hey, man, we're just rapping what's going on. We're telling you about our environments. They said it's a form of self-expression that chronicles the struggles of street life. I would agree with that. When you hear some of these rhymes, that's what you hear. It's a tale of struggle. It's a tale of trying to make it, trying to get to something better, right? But I also get how he's turned off by a lot of the negativity and the violence in it. What I would say is we can't ask these guys, why are you talking about it? What we got to say is, how can we make it better? How can we give you all nothing but positive things to talk about? make the hood nothing but positive. I didn't say it's going to happen overnight, but I'm just saying that's what we're trying to get to. And I like the fact that he had said something about it, but then he got to the point where he said, hold up, let me call these guys out. He had these rappers come in. He talked to them. They said they've come up with a plan in a few weeks here. They're going to release a plan and let us know what they came up with. Maybe a way to make this thing a little more congruent, a little more even-handed. And you know what I'm saying? That's a great thing. But that's what happens when you get people of color in these high positions. Okay? When you got a mayor of New York who's a person of color, he didn't just demonize these young brothers. He said, hold up. These young brothers are me. They just don't have the guidance I had. Why are they talking like this? I want y'all to come here and talk to me face to face. Come to where I do work, and talk to, and they did it. And they had a great conversation. They said people left shaking hands and such. So that's a beautiful thing. That right there is government working, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on, I want to talk about when Biden was asked, now we're going to talk about Ukraine, for those who've been waiting, real quick, in about 5 minutes. When Biden was asked about what he thought about Trump calling Putin a brilliant strategist, I talked about that on the show. He said he puts as much stock in it as when he called himself a stable genius, which is hilarious. That right there, I said Putin, he ain't missing. I'm not Putin. I said Biden, he ain't missing a beat right there. He already right there. He said yeah. He said yeah. He talking that he admires Putin. Whatever. He also said that he's a stable genius. So that right there lets you know the man don't know anything he's talking about. So that was funny. I agree with him. As far as Putin goes, he wants to expand Russia's territory. That's what he's doing. He wants to expand Russia's territory, okay? Wants to return Russia to the place it was before the Cold War. He wants to return it back to Mother Russia. You know what I'm saying? The USSR, the KGB. They used to have it going on, just like America. But then there was that Cold War. There was other side effects of a communist society. That's what they live under, communism. And so, you know what I'm saying, that crippled their economy, and it broke them. You know what I'm saying? Ronald Reagan, now, Lord knows, I do not agree with Ronald Reagan's politics. Ronald Reagan is the reason we have crack in the hood. I've talked about that ad nauseum. But he did win the Cold War. He did beat Russia. And they remember that. Vladimir Putin remembers it very well. So he wants to get back to the days before Reagan, which is something because, Reagan's kind of like a Republican god, or at least used to be. He's rolling over in his grave right now. Really? The people that he spent time and effort crippling and making sure weren't an issue for us anymore, now they're an issue. And they became an issue because his party let them in the door to prop up a guy who made us vulnerable, and now they're an issue. Ronald Reagan would be losing it. If he wasn't already dead, he would die from this information that I just gave you. Oh my goodness. Here's the thing though. Putin, he also wants to stop this too because he's afraid of NATO or Western influences moving so close to Russia. So they said NATO has been moving, and NATO is us. NATO is our bombs, they're our guns, that's us. But NATO is NATO, the League of Nations, all the nations come together. But they've been expanding that influence, right? And they've been moving into Ukraine and stuff. And they were saying that over there they had elected a guy, I got this from Rachel Maddow, said they elected a guy, he speaks Russian, so he appeals to the people of Ukraine, but he's interested in democracy. He's interested in a democratically elected government. Putin don't want to hear that. He don't need democracy working right next door. Because if democracy is working next door, then that makes the people who live here start being like, well, hold up. If they got a democratically elected government, we want one too. And then Putin got problems. He's been a dictator for 30 plus years. We've had all these presidents, one Putin in Russia. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Putin has ran Russia through 6-7 presidents here in America. Because that never changes. They say any election in Russia, Putin wins. Okay? So he's been strong-arming that country. And he's not trying to loosen his grip. He always talks about stepping down or leaving. That's Boulder Dash. I'm going to tell you, when that man leaves, he'll be a ripe old age, and the person who takes power will be his son, daughter, or some person he pulled out the sky who he wants to give that country. Because it'll be his to give to them. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? That is what it is with Putin. So he's trying to expand that territory into Ukraine. But he's sad, you know what I'm saying? He's upset about that Eastern influence coming in. He doesn't need that's bad luck for him. Joe Biden urged Americans to leave Ukraine. Said leave quickly. He does not want to send troops over there because even to look for Americans who could be in Ukraine, because he was even saying that. He was like, well, how do you do that? If I do that, I'm starting a war. If I send troops over there and they go up into Ukraine and say, hey, we're just looking for Americans, we're going to pull them out and leave here, that's a war. You start World War III. And Joe Biden is 100% correct on that. So he said, I don't want to do that. He said, I really don't think that Putin is stupid enough to walk up in Ukraine and cause self-hurting Americans. So I don't think he's going to do that. So I'm not going to send troops over there looking for Americans, because that's starting a war. That's starting World War III. So I hear that. There's a thing called the SWIFT system, and it's called the nuclear option of sanctions. I was tripping when I heard that, so of course I do a little research about that. I said the SWIFT system, the nuclear option of sanctions. So they're saying these particular sanctions, the SWIFT system, would be so harsh and so graphic. It'd be the nuclear option of sanctions. We do this when there's nothing else that we can do. Some people will say we're there. We already got the man into Ukraine bombing stuff overnight and all this other stuff. We're not at this nuclear option yet. Now, the nuclear option is, the SWIFT system, called the nuclear option for sanctions. SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. That's a mouthful. And banks use this to make cross-border payments. So really, this right here just makes trade go smoother. This helps with commerce. But they said this is the nuclear option. This is this is last case scenario. This is last ditch effort to to get Putin to cut the games or whatever. You would think we're there already, but they say we're not there. So that is what it is. But this SWIFT system is the nuclear option. They don't want to use it. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is my time. I went over a little bit, but there was all types of tasty and delicious news to talk about. Once again, I want to thank you for liking and subscribing. Phys Ed Music, Urban Politics, where politics lives. And as always, see you around like a donut.